Inflation is at the highest level that it's been for decades. So understandably, people that need to have work done on their roofs are looking for ways to save money doing that. Well, if you need to replace your roof during these difficult financial times, then in today's Walk in the Park, I'm going to tell you ways that you can save money replacing your roof. But not only that, I'm also going to give you my opinion about each of those ways, tell you what the advantages and disadvantages are of each, so that way you can kind of do your research and make your own wise decision on whether or not you want to take my advice on everything or just some of the things or anything at all. Let's jump right in. Number one, you could save money by putting off getting your roof replaced until sometime in the future after you've had a time to save up the money to pay for it. Would I recommend that you try to save up the money till sometime in the future so you can pay for it then? Maybe. That's one of those kind of on the fence type issues. There are obviously advantages to putting it off and trying to save up the money if you just don't have the money right now. But the reality is that roofing materials cost 22 to 25% more than they did just a year ago. Now, I've been in the roofing industry for 12 years, and during that time, I've never seen the cost of roofing materials go down. Sometimes the price stabilizes for a while, sometimes the increases are much smaller, sometimes like what we're seeing in the last 2 years, the price increases are much, much higher. But the prices never come back down. So the main question that you want to ask yourself, if this is the plan that you're trying to decide on, is if you wait a year or 2 years, is the rate of return you're going to get on saving your money going to be able to outpace the rate of inflation of roofing materials? So if roofing materials have increased 22 to 25% just in the last year, and there's no sign that any of that's going to slow down, if the price over the next year or two goes up 25%, will you have been able to save money and earn that much money on your savings? If not, then the rate of inflation is just going to eat away that money that you've been trying to save, and it's going to end up costing you much more doing it in the future, even if you're trying to save the money over that time period. As long as you pay it off before that interest and the payments start to kick in. Does that make sense? Number two, don't upgrade your roofing materials. Now, you might find that when the roofing salesman comes over to do his presentation, he could try to convince you to upgrade your roofing materials, specifically the shingles and the underlayment. Now, there could be reasons why you would want to upgrade your shingles. For example, if you want to have an impact resistant shingle instead of just a standard shingle, that's going to be an upgrade. Most likely that's going to be a paid upgrade. If you want a product that has more of a luxury look instead of just a standard shingle, more than likely that's going to be an upgrade that you're going to have to pay for. But you want to think that decision through before the salesman ever gets there, because you don't want him appealing to kind of your sense of vanity or any kind of emotion, or especially fear that, you know, if a hailstorm hits, it's going to destroy your roof, so you better upgrade to these impact resistant shingles. Just do your homework on that stuff and make that decision. Try to make that decision ahead of time before the roofing salesman even ever gets there. Now let's talk about the underlayment. There's primarily two types of underlayment to be considered. One is called ice and water shield, and then the other is just the primary underlayment. Talk about that in just a second. So ice and water shield does have specific applications, and sometimes it's even required by your local code, so your roofer might have to install it. Therefore, if you don't currently have it and code requires it, then that's going to be an upgrade that you're probably going to have to pay for. Then there's the primary underlayment. In the good old days, that would have been just the black tar paper, and you've seen that going on roofs before they put the shingles on. Today, though, roofers tend to prefer to use a synthetic underlayment. So this is a woven poly, and they prefer to use it because it lasts longer, it doesn't tear, it's safer to walk on. And the nice thing about the synthetic is that it basically costs the same as the black tar paper. So roofers are really getting away from installing the black tar paper because the cost is pretty equivalent to installing the synthetic felt. But what can happen is a zealous roofing salesman might try to convince you to upgrade to ice and water shield. That's fine. And he might try to convince you to pay for an upgrade to synthetic felt. That's not fine. Now, when I say it's fine that he's going to try to convince you to upgrade to the ice and water shield, that's a normal, reasonable thing to ask for. But if somebody's trying to get you to pay to upgrade to the synthetic, in my opinion, that's unreasonable because their cost is pretty much the same. So that what they may try to do is try to sell you on all the great benefits to this synthetic underlayment as opposed to the black tar paper, and try to convince you to pay extra for that, but their cost is pretty much the same. So opinion time. Would I recommend that you upgrade your shingles or your underlayment? If you're trying to save money and you're not required to do those upgrades, no, I would not recommend that you upgrade. Now, would I recommend that you install the synthetic as opposed to the black tar paper? Yes, but if I were you, I would ask your roofing salesman to include that as part of the estimate and not charge you extra for it. If he balks, let him walk, because the chances are good that you'd be able to find a roofer that will install that for you without charging you extra for it. Not giving in to the pressure that a salesman puts on you to pay for those kinds of upgrades to your shingles and your underlayment is a great way for you to save money. Number 3, require a full scope of work and estimate from your roofer. You don't want to get an estimate from your roofer that just simply says replace roof and all accessories. Or what's even worse than that is we'll do work for insurance proceeds. You want to get full scopes of work along with estimates for the scope of work from each of the roofers, so that way you can begin that process of comparing them to see which one really makes sense for you. Because some roofers might include things that they are upgrading you to automatically, like upgraded underlayment or upgraded shingles, and if you don't see the full scope of work, you're not going to know those details. Now, if you want to watch a video that explains how to give a request for proposal to all your different roofers so that you get estimates that are comparable, I don't mean comparable in price, but comparable in scope, then you can watch this video right up here and it explains the whole process and walks you through it step by step. The other reason that it's a really good idea to get full scopes of work from your roofing contractors is that way you can see what are the total measurement amounts that they're building into the job. For example, do the roofers have the same square footage of shingles to be installed, or does one have considerably more built into his estimate? If that's true, there may be a legitimate reason for it, and then you're going to want to ask that roofer why that is. But if you don't see those scopes of work itemized like that, you're not going to know why this one is considerably more expensive or why this one is considerably less expensive. So, opinion time. Would I recommend that you get full scopes of work and estimates from each of the roofers? Yes, I would strongly recommend that you do that, because doing that is going to help you understand the differences in the estimates, and it'll help you understand why there are differences. And if you don't understand it, you can ask the roofers why each of their estimates are different from the others. In the long run, that will help you make better decisions, which will help you save money. Number 4, don't answer your door after a hailstorm or some other major weather event. After a hailstorm, the door-to-door roofing salesmen creep out of every crevice and start blanketing the neighborhoods, knocking on doors, trying to give away free inspections, trying to get you to sign their paperwork, blah, 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 blah. Think about it this way. If you woke up one morning and your tooth hurt and a dentist just happened to knock on your door, would you hire him? I don't know, maybe you would. What if you inherited a large sum of money and the day after you got that money, wave after wave of financial investors started showing up at your door, knocking on your door, trying to convince you to let them tell you how to invest your money, would you hire any of them? I don't know, maybe you would. If you indulge that door-to-door roofing salesman by letting him or her get on your roof, inspect your roof, convince you to sign their paperwork, let them work with your insurance company, etc., 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 you have no idea who you've just hired. You haven't been able to do your research. You don't even know if you should file a claim. You have no idea whether your roof really does need to be replaced. You don't know any of those things. Now, don't get me wrong. Some roofing companies that go door to door are ethical. They are honest, but some of them aren't. And my point is, you don't know which is which at that point. At that point, you have no idea whether or not that person's going to scam you or whether it's going to do a good job for you. And here's the other kicker too. This can be really tempting because oftentimes the door-to-door guys will even offer to pay your deductible. Hey, if I need to save money, having somebody pay my deductible, that sounds like a great idea. But it also may be illegal in your state. So, opinion time. Would I recommend that you use a door-to-door roofer to do your roof replacement in order for you to save money? Generally speaking, no, I would not recommend that because the chances of you getting scammed that way are fairly high. So you could actually end up losing thousands of dollars that way. Number 5, hire a roofer that uses a cheap shingle. Hey, you're going to save money if you use a shingle that doesn't cost as much, right? Well, there's a reason that the shingle doesn't cost as much. Usually it's because the manufacturing process is faulty and the shingles don't hold up as well. Maybe the shingles aren't as thick, and so therefore they're not going to last you as long. There's one shingle manufacturer, well, one specifically, that has a terrible reputation for quality of their shingles. Now there are some other manufacturers who I don't really care for the quality of their shingles either, and we do get asked about those shingles, and so we try to steer them away from that. So opinion time, would I recommend that you use a cheaper shingle in order to save money? No, I wouldn't. Probably except for unless maybe you're selling your house and you're trying to do that so that you can just get out of the house or something. But even then you're giving the person who's buying your house a shingle that's not going to be that great. So no, generally speaking, I would not recommend that you use a cheaper shingle in order to save money. Number 6, buy the materials yourself and hire a roofer just for the labor. Now, why would somebody want to do this? Well, because typically if a roofer is going to provide the materials for you and do the labor, that roofer is going to charge profit on both of those things, the labor and the materials. So if you buy the materials, then you're saving yourself hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars of that profit that the roofer would normally be charging you. Opinion time. Would I recommend that you try to buy the materials and find a roofer to do just the labor for you? Well, maybe. That's kind of one of those sensitive topics, right? Because it can be challenging to find a roofer who will only want to provide the labor for you and not want to provide the materials as well. The reason being is because the time that he's going to invest into the project is going to be pretty much the same whether he's buying the materials or not buying the materials. So finding a roofer who's going to want to forego the profit that he's going to be making on the materials can be a challenge. I mean, that's how business works, right? So you'd basically be asking the roofer to kind of do the same amount of work for much less money. The other thing is the type of roofer that you're going to find who would be probably willing to do that may not be the kind of roofer that you'd want to have on your property. He may not have the type of insurance that he needs to protect you. He may not be licensed. So that's why I say, would I recommend that you do that? Maybe, probably not. Number 7, you could do it yourself. All the shingles from all the manufacturers pretty much have the installation instructions printed right on the package. And so if you're handy, you can follow instructions, you could do it yourself, especially if your roof isn't very complicated. You know, if it's not high, if it's not steep, if it's not real cut up, and you're up for the challenge of doing it, like I say, you could save yourself thousands of dollars by doing it yourself. Opinion time. Would I recommend doing it yourself in order to save money? Yes, maybe. Several cautions to think through. First of all, it's dangerous. Being up on a ladder, being up on a roof, doing that kind of work is inherently dangerous. If you're comfortable with it, go for it. If you're nervous about it, you may want to think twice. Second, if you do it wrong and it fails inspection, if you have it inspected by your local jurisdiction, you have to fix it. Then you have to have them come back and re-inspect it. Third, if you do it yourself and then you go to sell your house at some point in the future and they know that there's a new roof on there, but there's no permit pulled for it, you may have to retroactively have a permit pulled for it and have somebody come out and inspect it. It just could cause problems in the sale of your house. Not saying that it will, it may not, but it could. Fourth, there won't be any workmanship warranty on it. Therefore, if, like I say, something is installed incorrectly, there's nobody that you can call who's going to come back and fix it for you for free. You're going to have to fix it. Also, you're going to want to check with the manufacturer and find out if you do it yourself, is there going to be a manufacturer's warranty on it too, or are you foregoing having any warranty on the actual product? So my final caution on this is if you decide to do it yourself, offer a roofing contractor, a licensed roofing contractor, $250, $300, whatever, to come inspect the job as you're doing it. So like a mid-roof inspection and then a final inspection. If you're going to do it yourself, have somebody check it out for you to make sure that it's done correctly. Don't count on your local jurisdiction's inspectors to give you an inspection that is going to tell you whether or not it's done correctly. Usually code requirements, that's the bare minimum. You want somebody that's going to look at it and tell you whether it's done correctly. Hey, you hung in there for the whole video. I really appreciate that. And in fact, I think you're going to like this video right here. And until our next walk in the park, I'm Tracy Bookman, owner of Homestead Roofing.